What is up, everyone? Welcome to another week of It's Sports Sis. My name is Christine. I am your average Joe Schmo when it comes to sports knowledge, and I am here to ask all the questions that you have at home.
And I am Sarah, your self-proclaimed sports expert, and I'm here to answer all of the questions that Christine has, and hopefully all of those questions that you have at home. And this week, Christine, we are starting our football series. So
yeah, well, I mean, football starts tomorrow because today is Wednesday. We're recording on Wednesday. The very first NFL football game starts tomorrow night, Thursday night. It's going to be the Cowboys versus the Bucks. So we figured what better way to kick off we should do a series where we kind of break down football into simple terms that everybody can understand. So yeah. That's what we're going to be doing here today is going to be football 1.0.
Yeah. So we are starting from the very tippity tip top, you guys. So talking in like the major high level of like what even like how long is a football field and how long is a game and how do you score points and like very, very simple things. And so we'll kind of, this is NFL and college, the rules. But each week we'll kind of go into a 2.0. We might have to morph a couple of them into different episodes because college rules and NFL rules are different, just depending on what you're talking about. So that being said,
let's kind of talk first and foremost about the premise. What's the premise of football?
Basically just to score more points than the other team does. So there are two teams that are playing each other, and the games are on Thursday nights, Sundays all day, and Monday nights. And during playoffs, you'll see some games like trickle into Saturdays, but mainly Thursday nights, all day Sunday, Sunday night, and Monday night. And there are matchups. Two teams play each other. Whoever gets more points wins the game.
Yes. And we're finally back to a normal season, hopefully this year, because obviously last year the season was all screwed up. We had games on Wednesdays and Thursdays and occasional Tuesdays, and we had teams miss a few games because of COVID. So yeah, this season we're hoping it's going to be completely normal. Thursday nights, Sundays, and Mondays.
Yes,
so
exactly.
How do you see the football players get the ball down the field to score a touchdown?
Yeah. So I guess we should start with how do you score the point? So like, what is a touchdown, right? So there are like, I guess only 4 different ways that you can score points. And one of them is kind of broken into 2. So there's touchdowns, which is 6 points. Once you score a touchdown, you can either go for 1, the extra point, and kick it and get 1 point, or do a 2-point conversion and go for 2. There's a field goal, which is 3 points, and there's a safety, which is 2.
Right. So, but if you get a touchdown, then you get 6 points.
Yes.
And then you can either go for the extra point or the 2-point conversion.
That's correct.
But you can't get a field goal and a safety, obviously, when you score the touchdown, right? That's going to be, right. You're going to get a field goal whenever you're too far away or you've run out of downs, which kind of brings us to talking about the downs.
Yes, exactly. So the goal to move the ball down the field, to answer your question earlier, you get first downs. So what is a first down, right? It is moving the ball forward 10 yards. So from the point of where you receive the ball, so let's take the beginning of the game, for example. One team at the very beginning, there's a coin flip. Whoever wins the coin flip gets to make the decision of who receives the ball. So if they want to receive the ball first, they'll say, we want to receive it. If they want to what's called defer, they will defer to the other team. So let's say the defer, team A kicks off to team B. Team B gets the ball. They can run it, or they can, if they get it in the end zone, they can kneel it in the end zone. And that brings them out to the 20-yard line.
So you're talking about whenever they're punting the ball and the catch returner catches the ball.
Well, it's a kick.
What?
It's a kick, not a punt.
Okay. So whenever they kick the ball and the returning team catches the ball, the catch returner, if that's what his name is.
Yes.
He can either kneel it if he's within the 20 yard or if he's in the end zone.
Yes.
Or he chooses to run it.
Or he can do what's called a fair catch, which means I don't want to run it, but I'm not in the end zone. So I'm just going to catch the ball here. And this is where I get the ball. This is where my team's going to start with the ball. Right.
Right.
So whatever 3 decisions that the kick returner decides on, whether it's a touchback, which is the kneel in the end zone, a fair catch, which is over his head out of the end zone, that's where the ball starts, or to run the ball, wherever that ball ends up, that's where the offense comes onto the field and is trying to get some sort of points on the board.
Right.
So their goal is move the ball, really, I mean, longer than 10 yards each set of each series is what it's called. So a series of 3 downs. But in order to advance and continue your drive on the offense, you have to get a first down. So you move the ball from wherever the kick returner either fair caught, either the 20-yard line, or he ran the ball out to. That's the start of the down for the offense.
Mm-hmm.
And they have 4 tries to move it 10 yards.
Yes. So typically they have 3 tries, but they are allowed a 4th try. So what happens if they go for it on 4th down and they don't get the first down?
Yeah. So those 4 tries that I was telling you about are called downs, to Christine's point. And what you'll typically see is offenses, if they have 3 downs and they still don't get that 10 yards because the defense is stopping them, then they will punt the ball. So after a 3rd down, you have basically, oh my gosh, what's it called? Like a chance. You remember around the world, you would be like, okay, I'm chancing it.
You're going to chance it.
You're going to chance it, right? So you've already missed it once and you're like, I'm not going to miss it again. They're like, all right, I've missed, I haven't gotten 10 yards in the 3 downs, but I can chance it. I think I can chance it with my 4th down and get it. And if they do, then they get a whole new set of downs. But if they don't, then they turn the ball over at that spot to the other team.
Right. So usually you won't see a team going for a 4th down whenever they're close to their end zone. Correct.
That's right. So their backs are closer to their end zone, right?
Yeah.
So yes, correct. A lot of times you won't see people go for it on 4th down until we're closer to the end of the game too, because it just seems a little careless. But what you will see, if a team has gone 3 downs and they still have not made that first down, they have not moved the ball 10 yards, then they will do really one of 2 things. They will punt.
Mm-hmm.
So they will there's a long snapper. There's literally a position on the field called a long snapper, and he hikes the ball like however many yards back.
So he's the guy that goes hike, and then he like puts it through his legs to the person behind him.
The punter.
Yeah, the punter.
Well, I mean, there's a couple of guys that do that, but the long snapper does that for the punter. Yes. So
but it's still between his legs, right?
Yes, it's between his legs and he snaps it really far back and the punter gets it. And the punter kicks the ball to the opposite side of the field. And similar to what I told you at the very beginning of the game, the only difference between a kick and a punt is a punt is held in the guy's hands, dropped and kicked, whereas a kick is only at the beginning of each half or after a score. And there is a like a piece of plastic on the ground that holds the ball and it's kicked off of the ground. So as far as the kick is concerned, those are the only 2 differences. There are definitely many more differences with punts and kicks that we can go into in further episodes. But for the sake of simplicity with this one, let's just leave it at that, right? So
I'm glad that you broke that down too, because I always get a punt and a kick confused. I always say he's punting the ball. And like you just said, well, it's not a punt, it's actually a kick.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how many times when I'm watching football, I make the same mistake. And Michael's always like, no, it's a kick. He's not punting the ball. Or I'm like, oh, he's kicking the ball when he's really punting the ball. So it's like easily confused. And the only difference, like you said, is yes, he's physically dropping the ball for a punt rather than kicking it off of a little plastic stand.
Yes, there's like a little plastic stand, and they usually have like cute little kids who come out and like grab them off the field. So anyway, so after 3 downs, you can either punt, again, kicking the ball to the other field or the other side of the field to the other team. And switching possessions. So you are now kicking the ball to be on offense from defense.
Mm-hmm.
And same rules to the punt returner as to the kick returner that I told you about earlier on, right? So that they can either fair catch it, kneel in the end zone for a touchback, or they can return the ball. They can catch it and run if they feel like they can advance the ball farther down the field, right?
So we've kind of talked a lot about, yards and end zones and everything else, which I think we should go ahead and touch on the field. So how many yards total is the entire football field?
Yes, great question. The field is 120 yards total, but the field itself, the playing field, is only 100 yards.
Okay, so then each end zone would be broken into 10 yards each.
10 yards each. That's right. So the end zones bookend the football field. So the 10-yard deep end zones bookend the 100-yard football field.
What does bookend mean?
Bookend is like whenever you're like putting things on like either side, like a book, like, do you know what bookends are?
Like a book weight, like it holds the books together?
Yeah, like they're called bookends.
Oh, I didn't know that's what they were called, but I know what they are.
Yeah, so like you like sandwich books in between of them. Yeah, so they like hold the books up. That's what the end zone does to the field. It's not holding it up.
But okay. So the end zones bookend the field. I get it. Okay.
Yes, exactly. So
and then obviously, since there's 100 yards of playing fields, then the center field would be 50 yards, I'm assuming.
Center field, also called midfield.
Okay.
Midfield is, where Juju Smith-Schuster did his Corvette, hop in my it's like that. We say when I walk like that, we talk like that, we walk like that. Bam, 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 bam.
Yep.
He did it at midfield, which is typically where the home teams, or it is where the home team's logo is, right? So that's why it was so disrespectful for him to do the TikTok dance there, because
he was like stomping on their logo. So you also hear, so Michael and I have this thing called Red Zone.
Okay.
On our TV. We don't actually have not fantasy. We don't actually have NFL Network, but we have Red Zone.
Yep.
But what is the red zone on the football field?
Yeah. So the red zone is between the 20-yard line and the goal line. So when an offensive team, so when the team has the ball, that's the offense, and they're driving in to score some points, sometimes they'll even highlight it red, that 20-yard gap or whatever, the 20-yard line to the goal line. Basically, what this means is you can expect the offense to get some sort of points out of this drive, whether it's a field goal, which is 3 points, or a touchdown. It's almost expected for the offense to score, and it's a huge defensive stand if the defense can keep them from scoring. So,
this is whenever you hear the crowd get absolutely wild in the stands. I mean, usually on third down, the crowd gets a little rowdier, but especially when they're in the red zone, whenever the defense is trying to prevent the offense from scoring, the crowd should get wild.
Yes, exactly. They do. So, you will see, like I said, them score some sort of points. So we kind of briefly went over this earlier. A touchdown is 6 points. You get the ball somehow in the end zone, right? You either run it in or you throw it in. A field goal is 3 points. You kick the ball through the gold, yellow, whatever you want to call the color, uprights.
Yeah.
If you make it through, you get 3 points. And then there's the extra point and the 2-point conversion, which after you score a touchdown, you have the option as a team to go for a 2-point conversion, which is basically just another offensive play. And the team gets the ball on, I think, the 3-yard line.
And the 3-yard line, like, it sounds like it's really close, but whenever you actually see it, whenever they're all lined up, it's pretty far away from the actual end zone.
You are kidding. It's actually from the 2-yard line. I just Googled it.
Well, that's crazy though, because like to my point earlier, it's like 2 yards seems like nothing, but then whenever you see them all lined up, it's kind of far away from the end zone.
Okay. So The ball is on the 2-yard line,
Yes.
but then there is the whole offensive line who are gigantic gorillas of men. So let's say they take up, they're like 5 feet wide.
Right. And then they
so that's
hike it
another,
backwards.
yeah. So that's another yard. And then they hike it back to the quarterback. That's another, let's say 3 yards. So I mean, really it's like they're like 5 yards from the end
Yes.
zone to get the 2-point conversion. So
2-point conversions are always extremely nerve-wracking because I
Yes.
feel like 50% of I would say even less than 50% of the time are they ever successful.
Yeah. So it's very, very stressful. You obviously have to dial up like a really great play because the defense doesn't have a huge field to defend, right? They're backed
Yeah.
up against their own end zone. So it's a very compact play. It's crazy. So you won't see 2-point conversions often. So the touchdown 6, you can go for the 2-point conversion or you can kick the extra point. And the extra point is a kick through the upright, similar, like I said, to the field goal. It's from the 15-yard line. So similar to a field goal, you see these kicks, right? And the yard line that they're on, and that's where it's kicked from. But because they hike the ball from the yard line, like they'll hike the ball from the 15-yard line.
Yeah, but they'll
like
hike it back.
Yeah, so the long snapper will hike it back like 7 yards.
So he's really kicking it from like the 32 or something.
So the 15-yard,
Oh, he's only at 15.
even though the ball's placed on the 15-yard line, let's say they hike it back. I think they hike it back like 7 yards, and then they have to kick it through the uprights, which is at the back of the end zone, which is another 10 yards. So it's almost a 35-yard extra point. It's not, they're calling it like, it used to be like an automatic. Like the extra point, probably 5 years ago, I think was from, like it was from a very low yard line. I almost want to say 5, but it might be from 10. And they moved it back so that it's not so automatic anymore. And you'll see kickers miss extra points sometimes. So
yeah, we know all about that with Joey Sly, unfortunately. I know Joey Sly, he was so good. And then that's the thing with kickers. I feel like it's so easy for them to get in their head. And then once they're in their head, it's game over.
I know. It's such like it's like the most individual role on the football field for sure. So the standard scores that you'll see for football games will be like in increments of 7. So a touchdown with an extra point, and then you add 3s, right? So those will be field goals too. So like 10, 17, 13, 21, any increment of 7 and 3 are pretty standard. It's when you start working in those 2 variables that it gets really interesting, because that means that the team has gone for a 2-point conversion or they have gotten what's called a safety. And are you familiar with what a safety is?
Yes, but explain what it is.
Okay. So a safety is when the defense, so let's say the punter, whenever you're changing possession, so they've gone 3 and out, they've not gotten the first down, and they're punting the ball, right?
Mm-hmm.
The goal of the punter is to get the other team as close as possible to their own end zone, right? So get their backs as close as they can to their own end zone, not just to give them more field to cover to score points, but also because of the risk of getting a safety. And what a safety is the team with the ball, the offense, is tackled in the end zone, in their own end zone. So their backs are to their end zone. And if they are tackled in that end zone, it is a safety. This is the sign for safety.
Which you see from the referees.
That team, the defense, gets 2 points, but they also get the ball.
Where do they get the ball?
It's kicked off to them. So because it's points, right? So every time that there's points,
I didn't know that.
There's a kickoff. Every time that there's a change in possession because of downs, there's a punt. That's like
so if the other team got a safety and they got 2 points on the board, they automatically get the ball back.
Yes, they get the ball back. That's right.
Oh,
it's like
I didn't know that.
It's like a make it take it kind of thing, because they have to make it worth it.
Yeah.
Like if you got if you got 2 points, if you tackled the team in their end zone, you got 2 points and they got the ball back, then it's almost just like you like should have potentially just tried to get the ball back organically and gotten 3 points. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. And you said that the sign and symbol for a safety is this, which obviously the referees do this whenever they get a safety.
Yes.
Obviously the referees are the guys in the black and white striped shirts. However, you also see them throw 2 different color flags. The yellow flag is the typical flag, right, that you see for penalties and stuff. They also throw a red flag. So what's the difference?
So the referees throw yellow flags. The coaches throw red flags.
And so that's,
there are obviously those are 2 huge, tremendously different things. The yellow flags are for penalties, which that again is going to be in a later episode because we're going to have to do an NFL penalties episode and a college football penalties episode. Just
that can definitely be its whole episode
because it's very intense. There are 5-yard penalties, 10-yard penalties, 15-yard penalties. There are what's called automatic first downs. There are penalties that don't have automatic first downs. There declines. I mean, literally there's so many rules that I can't go into right now because we just don't have the time to do it. But on a future episode during the series, I will definitely break them down for you guys. But yellow flag from a referee means one of the teams did something wrong. They broke a rule, penalty.
Okay. Right.
And the red flag
is
from the coach. And the coach is throwing the red flag because what he's saying is, I challenge what the ref just threw the penalty flag over.
So I demand almost a replay of the play and see if in fact it is what the referee called.
Or opposite, it's what the referee didn't call.
Right.
So like if you tackle my receiver and you don't get a call for it, and my guy didn't get a touchdown because of it, I'm going to challenge that no call. And the ref's going to have to go and they'll go into the little thing, and they'll watch the video, and then they'll come out and the Panthers, every time somebody challenges it, you know what song they play?
What?
Tell me something good.
And half the time it's never something good. It's never what you want to hear.
I know. Rarely do you see, because these refs, I mean, I always think like, first of all, I said since I was a young girl, people always say that when they're young girls that they wanted to be like vets or doctors or like Miss America.
I want to be a referee.
I said I wanted to be the first female NFL referee since I was a little girl.
That's really cute because the very first female referee in the NFL's name was Sarah, was it not?
I know. Yes. Yeah. She's blonde and
with
she has H. Yes. And she, spells it with an H too. And the first female kicker in the college game, her name was Sarah too. Anyway.
See, very
popular name. Yes. We're all sports fanatics, us Sarahs, but I always said that I wanted to be a referee in the NFL, but I feel like because of that, I pay so much attention to the referees. They are so accurate. It's amazing to me, like how quickly like these plays are happening and how often
how many men there are on the field too.
Yes. And how often they get it right. So you'll see, I mean, they will slow these plays down to like the negative and it'll be like, wow, like the ref got it right. Like to the plain eye, it might not look like the ref got it right, but he did. So the challenge, all of that to say, back to the red flag, right? So the challenge flag means I don't agree with you. Whether it's a no call or it's a call, review it, let me know. If the coach loses the challenge, that team loses a timeout.
Okay.
You have 2 of them. Okay.
So that's a big loss.
No. Sorry. You have 3 timeouts, but you have 2 challenges. So you lose 1 challenge, you have 1 more. You lose another challenge, you're out.
I always loved watching Ron Rivera too, because Ron Rivera was never afraid to throw that red flag.
No, definitely not. And it's also sometimes, Christine, if for nothing else, the coach will be like, I know I'm getting ready to lose a timeout. But if his one of his players is like, coach, I caught the ball and they said that it was incomplete. Like,
Yeah.
I know I caught it. I know I caught it. The coach is probably like, I don't want to lose this thing, but
I'm going to throw it anyways.
I'm going to throw it anyways. I'm going to support you. I'm going to get the crowd all riled up and it's going to be, so it's like a kind of a morale booster, if you will. But yes, if they lose, which you typically see, they will lose a timeout. If they win, they have a second one. If they win the second one, they actually get a third one.
Okay. Oh, I didn't know that. They get a third challenge flag
If they win both. That's
which
correct.
will never happen. But
well, I don't know. I feel like it's probably happened sometimes, but not often. But
it's obviously had to have happened if they made it a rule. But anyways, we're running short on time, which is why I want to talk time in a football game. So what's the time broken into? Like, I know there are quarters. How much time is in each quarter?
Yeah. So the total game is 60 minutes long. It is broken into 4 quarters. Each are 15 minutes. And then there's halftime in the middle. So halftime's going to depend if it's like a primetime game, halftime's going to be a little bit longer because they'll have a halftime show, but halftimes usually range from like 15 to 30 minutes long. Super Bowl halftime obviously is going to be much longer, but the clock stops and starts so frequently, whether it's for a penalty, going out of bounds, an injury, there's all different things that the clock will stop for. Again, we will go through that in a future episode, but just know that you are looking for 4 quarters, 15 minutes each. And once the end of the second quarter and the end of the fourth quarter are nearing like the end, you have what's called a 2-minute warning. And it's basically a free timeout for both teams. They stop the clock. Usually you go to commercial and it gives the teams a break. So 2 minutes left in the second quarter, 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter is the 2-minute warning.
Okay. And last but not least, I know we kind of spoke about offense and defense, but are there any other players that we need to know about on the field?
Yes. Great question. Okay. So there's the offense who has the ball trying to get down the field to score, the defense trying to prevent the offense from getting down the field to score. But there's also the special teams. So special teams are anybody who's going to be on the field during a kick or a punt. Easiest way to describe it. So,
and they're their own team. So they are obviously, they're not part of offense and they're not part of the defense. They're part of special teams.
You might see some players overlap. There probably will be some overlapping players between offense and defense, mainly offense and the special teams. Yeah. But yes, special teams is its own team. So anytime that there's a punt, anytime that there's a kick, anytime that there's a punt reception or a kick reception, those teams are the special teams.
Got it. All right. Well, that pretty much wraps up this week's episode of It Sports Sis. You guys are the best. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and our podcast, and we will see you next week.
Go Panthers. Happy NFL season, you guys. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.